How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the P.O.P, aka the Preston Outdoors Podcast. I'm excited to get back on here and start doing these once again. We missed a week last week. I was just getting home from the Bassmaster Central Open down on Pickwick Lake down there. It's on the border between Alabama, Tennessee, and even part of the lake goes into Mississippi. So got back in, got everything settled. Work's been crazy here at home, so it's a great time of year. Been doing a little bit more fishing, so welcome back. We're going to get another episode done here. Basically, we're going to reviewing my experiences, my thoughts, process, everything like that. And some bad news. Yeah, some bad news I just found out a couple days ago. Reviewing the Bassmaster Central Open down on Pickwick. So, again, I just want to remind you guys, Tuesday mornings, we do the P.O.P Preston Outdoors Podcast. We do that. And also you can find the video of this podcast on the Preston Outdoors YouTube channel. If you're listening to Spotify, iTunes, all the major podcast distributors, if you could like the channel and leave me a review, it'll help get more viewers on this channel, and hopefully we can get more partners with this thing, and then we can do more giveaways and stuff like that to give back to the viewers. I think it'd be really awesome. Also, if you guys got any subjects that you're interested in hearing me talk about, or go get somebody that is a pro on this subject, I will definitely do that. You need to send me a Instagram message. Follow me. You can follow me on Instagram, whatever, or send me an Instagram message, Facebook message. Holy crap, it's been a while. Or send me an email at prestonoutdoors2@gmail.com. Or leave. There is a blog up on the Preston Outdoors website where you can respond to the episode with some questions, something like that. That way we can get some Q&A episodes going. Nobody's done that yet. Who's going to be the first one to give us a topic to talk about? Still waiting for it. So, yeah, like I said, Tuesday mornings is our podcast upload, and when our YouTube video of the podcast drops, and then Thursdays at 3 p.m. Central Time. We haven't dropped a video in the last couple of weeks either, because I didn't drop it the Thursday of the tournament because I was fishing, obviously. But this week, Thursday, we're going to have the Bassmaster Central Open Day 1 and Day 2. They're going to be combined into two videos, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But Thursdays at 3 p.m. Central Time is when we upload the YouTube videos. Like I said, if you haven't already, we just got just a little bit over, approaching 5,100 followers on Instagram here shortly, hopefully. And we just cracked the 2,000 mark on my YouTube channel. So if you guys are new to it or just subscribed or been there from day one, I really, really appreciate it. To most people, it's not a big accomplishment, but I've been doing YouTube for a while now, and finally got to that mark. So we're hoping to get to Instagram, bump that up. Who knows how long it'll take, but the goal is to get to that to about 10,000 followers I'm hoping for, and 3,000 followers for this year. I'm hoping to get the YouTube channel with. Those are my goals. We got to pump out some more content for you guys. But let's jump into the bad news right away. We'll get it out of the way. I was very, very disappointed to see that when I went to check my GoPro a couple days ago to pull the footage for Pickwick Lake off. I don't know how this happens, but this is what you do with technology. I only have a couple fish catches on film. I don't know what the heck happened. I used the looping mode on my GoPro Hero. I think it's a Hero 6, Hero 7, something like that. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I used the looping mode. I did save video clips every time I caught a fish. And there was a couple times, it was raining, so I don't know if that affected the camera or not, but there was a couple times where it said repairing file. And so I don't know if that file didn't get repaired or what the heck happened, but I've only got a couple fish saved. So I'm going to have to do, which I will do, more explaining in the video coming out later this week on what happened, stuff like that. I do have some baits here that I'll briefly talk about, but there will be a recap video of the tournament, kind of like a 2020 version of it, of what I saw, what I used, my techniques, and kind of my thought process in it. So you get a sneak peek here in the podcast, talking before, during, and after the tournament, but the video will be focusing on the tournament itself and what I learned in some of the baits that I'll show you here briefly, what I was able to catch fish on, especially what I learned, so that way you can learn from it too. So heading down to Pickwick, we were staying in, or the tournament, excuse me. Oh, man, the tournament was out of Counce, Tennessee, and that's where we were staying. We stayed at the state park there. For most of you people that don't know, my grandpa actually travels with me to these events. He's got a big mobile home, an RV mobile home. And my grandpa likes to travel across the country with his mobile home. And he actually was able to, did it for most of the events last year. And then we were able to start off the event with this year staying down there. So I was able to stay in him, have a nice bed to sleep in, stuff like that. And it really helps your physically and your mental game when it comes to doing this tournament stuff that most people take for granted, I should say. But again, this was supposed to be the second tournament of the year. But once again, I mentioned that in my other podcast that the tournament on Smith Lake got moved to the beginning of October. So traveling down there, I was actually able to stay with a buddy of mine's sister and his brother-in-law and their kids, able to stay there in Springfield, Missouri. So shout out to the Van Hoosers for letting me stay there with them. I kind of cut my journey in half. It was about 12 hours from where I'm at here in North Dakota down there. Stay with them and get a good night's sleep, and then get up and leave about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning after having some breakfast and hanging out with them a little bit. Again, I'm not trying to push myself too hard for these events because it's going to be some long hours of practicing, long hours of tournament, and not a whole lot of sleep during the week anyway. So finished off, got into Saturday before the tournament, and was able to talk to a couple guys that I travel around with, and they let me practice with them. During practice, I practiced for 3 days. It was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And what we did, obviously when I get down there, I tell people this, when I get down there, the guys have already got their major game plan established. They've been there for a week or so, 2 weeks, however long they're there. And when I get there, the last 3 days, 4 days of practice, they're just having their pattern established or trying out new things to eliminate some water. So we actually did some offshore ledge fishing that I have never done before. We call them drop-offs up here, but ledge fishing is typically a very, very popular, common tactic for the Tennessee River chain, which I think there's like 6 or 7 lakes. Pickwick is one of them. Gunnersville is one. There's a whole bunch of other lakes that are along, like maybe Wilson Lake. I'm not 100% sure. But Kentucky Lake's one of them. It's just the Tennessee River system snaking across the country there. And this is one of the systems there. And ledge fishing is very, very popular. So I got a little glimpse of that in practice. Funny story is I didn't have my big crankbaits with when I went out with Andy Rybar. And he let me practice with him on Sunday. And it was funny because I didn't have my crankbaits with and my big ones. And so I was like, oh, crap. So I had a chatterbait with. So I cast it out of chatterbait, let it hit on top of the shelf or drop off or ledge, whatever. And then I would just slowly crank in the chatterbait just so the blade would shimmy. So my rod would work back and forth. And it was like my rod was doing this and in between, well, here, what I was doing, the slow rolling that chatterbait, and it would be bouncing off rocks and stuff. And if I stopped felting rocks, I'd pause, chatterbait would hit the bottom, I'd start slow rolling. And I actually caught a couple fish doing that. My biggest one was about 3.5 pounds. I think at the end of the day, we bounced around to a couple spots. I had about 7 pounds for my best 3 measuring as a co-angler. So I would have been really happy with that in the tournament. Second and third day of my practice, I fished with Alan Nail. He's a pro from Oklahoma. I got to know him a little bit last year. Great guy. And we did some offshore stuff, kind of basically what we were fishing, transition between pre-spawn and post-spawn fish. I got a really good glimpse at how you hear on television or you read in the Bassmaster magazine how fish are staging up out of their winter haunts, moving to the spawn, weather system comes, fish move back. I mean, basically when people are saying these Bassmaster events, the fish are coming to me or the fish are leaving me, most of the time it's these transition areas, and we are actually fishing some of them. So I got to learn and actually put an image that has been in my head all these years of seeing fish do this and actually be able to go out and catch some fish and shake some fish off, meaning we didn't set the hook into them using some kind of soft plastic, some kind of moving bait. You just move the hooks out. If you're not familiar with what shaking fish off means, is if you use a Texas rig or something along those lines, anything that you're using, a slower moving bait, if the fish picks it up, you just kind of try and shake them off. You don't set the hook. That way they don't get stung and stuff like that. If you're using a crankbait, you bend the hooks in. Using a spinnerbait, chatterbait, some guys put shrink tubing over top of the hook, and then they just get bit and they just kind of shake it off. Don't set the hook. So we did that a few times. So I was able to learn the first day, a little bit of ledge fishing, and then the second and third day, a little bit of those transition areas. And I actually got to use some of that stuff I learned from Alan last weekend when we went fishing, actually caught some fish down in South Dakota. So come to the tournament day. I can't remember who my day one boater is. It's in the video. I'll mention him. We went shallow. Some of the stuff we did in practice was out deeper, and we hadn't practiced shallow at all for those 3 days I practiced. So I was really able to pick his brain the night before my day one boater and see what we were doing. We're fishing a lot of boat docks. We're fishing basically in the backs of spawning pockets. I feel like we were in there. And this is really cool. We were in there, and he said he was catching some good fish. I was really excited. I have it right here. I had a chatterbait tied on this. If you guys are listening, this is a 1/2 ounce Z-Man jackhammer chatterbait. It's in chartreuse and white. And I had, I'll talk about it here in a little bit. The trailer on there is pretty cool. But I had this bait tied on. I didn't even throw it. I had it tied on. I really wanted to throw it. I was excited. Actually spent the $15, $16 to get a couple of these because everybody said they're the best. Cut it off right away. The reason why I cut it off is he was throwing chatterbait. He was throwing a white one. I said, well, if he's going to be throwing a chatterbait, I'm not going to throw a chatterbait behind him. So what I did is I picked up a Bandit 100. Let me see if I got one here. I'll show you. Luckily, I brought my tackle boxes up here with me. So I had a Bandit 100. Again, if you're listen to the podcast, you're not going to be able to see this. Check out the video or check out the video coming up later this week. This is a Bandit 100 in all white. I think this dives to like 6, 7, 8 feet, something like that. And it wasn't that deep, but I like banging these crankbaits off the bottom, like having bottom contact. First fish of the day, caught it probably 5, 6 casts into starting to throw that bait. It was a short fish. All the fish had to be 15 inches or above. Soon after, though, with the docks are different down there. They've got like wire cabling and stuff that are anchoring them in because they are in there permanently for the year. Pretty sure I got this stuck on a pipe or something like that. Lost my first one. Did not tie one back on. I broke it off, said, screw it, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to keep fishing. What I did tie on when I cut my chatterbait off is I actually picked these up. I went to, when we were in Springfield, spend the night. I was like, I got old Bass Pro Shops. People tell me it's awesome. I've never been there before. So I like to buy stuff in these places that I don't have back home that I've seen enough of. And this was actually one of the War Eagle spinnerbait. Everybody talks about War Eagle and their spinnerbaits. I figured and just guessed that some of the water was going to be a little bit dirty. And we don't have, I haven't seen them. They might be up here where I'm at, but I haven't seen them. And this is a chartreuse and white skirt with an Indiana blade between the Willow and the Colorado. And then it has an orange Colorado bladed kicker, a smaller blade on there. Now this is real, hear it? Real noisy bait. The water was a little bit dirty. So actually to catch my first keeper, I threw this like 6 times underneath a walkway because he was fishing the dock really, really slow. And so I was able to just keep casting. And I really like throwing a spinnerbait shallow, especially if there's a little bit more color to the water. And so you can slowly crank that thing and it stays up in the water column high. Boom, get bit, get a 15-incher in the boat. Threw the spinnerbait around more and more, and I started seeing these shad come with the spinnerbait. Now, I don't know what kind of shad they were. If they're I think they were threadfin shad, but I'm not 100% sure. They were like hitting it and stuff, and I didn't really feel the bite, but they were kind of hitting it. And then all of a sudden, you pull up, there'd be 3 or 4. Pull up, there'd be 5 or 6. And we went around and around, and it was just getting a little deeper. And I just had a feeling there's something to do with this shad going on here. Went to my tackle box, pulled up this little guy. This is a Bandit 100, I believe, and it's got black top and black and white. It's like got a black top on it and like a gray or white rest of the body and like an orange throat on there. Now, this almost looked identical to what those fish were eating. And unfortunately, like I said, we did not get this on film. For some reason, it did not save. I started throwing this little guy around. I think it dives to maybe 3 or 4 feet, something like that. But we weren't fishing very deep water. And so we went to the other side of the cove, if I remember right. And I started fishing this around because there's rocks on the bank and it looks like it just looked like there's rock in the water. cast that thing out, start cranking around on my second cast. I felt rocks right away. Second cast, boom, get bit. It's like a 14-incher. So I'm like, okay, there's fish around here. We went up and down the bank, and in a matter of like 5 minutes, that's why I was so pissed I didn't have this on film. Matter of like 5 to 10 minutes, I had caught like 5 fish. And I had another keeper. It was another, what was it? Oh, I ended up fishing a dock, and he was going by really quick, and I started cranking it in to get it around the dock so I wouldn't get snagged, because I only had one of these baits. Boom, get bit. It was a 16-inch largemouth, was my biggest one of the day. And I got bit so much on this little thing. Like, I probably caught 7 to 8 fish during the first day. Only 2 were keepers, so I only came in with 2 fish for the day. And as a co-angler, you're allowed 3. I had a couple fish that were 14 and a half, and one of them was 14 7/8, like just an eighth of an inch, a tiny amount that did not touch the 15-inch mark. So obviously it doesn't get to count. But we went to a couple other coves, went back there, and it just didn't happen in the afternoon. We actually got rained on for most of the morning, and the fishing was pretty good for me then. My boater ended up I think he got 3 or 4 or 5. I don't think he got 5. First day I come in with 5 pounds, 5 pounds some change. I was sitting in like 74th place. You got to make the top 40, make a check. And actually I was sitting within 7 pounds of making the cut, or it was the old cut, like of they used to take the top 12. Now this year the co-anglers only fish the 2 days. But to make the top 12, I was sitting within like 7-8 pounds. So the way the fish were weighing at a 15-incher was around 2 pounds. So if I could get 3, just 3 keepers to come in with around 7 pounds, 1, I was getting paid, and 2, I was going to have really good high points fishing. Day 2 comes around, talk to my boater, a different boater, and he's going shallow again as well. So this time I elected to start with the chatterbait and have that sucker tied on. And of course, now I'm going to have my little crankbait tied on the Bandit 100 that looks like these shad. If I remember right, we went around we wanted to go fish a spawning fish right away, so we fished around, didn't really catch anything. We bounced around to a bunch of different places. Fished some riprap. I caught maybe 1 dinky one on chatterbait. I did catch a couple on the little crankbait, but it wasn't a lot. We were fishing like shallower, but they weren't big, expansive flats and stuff like we were the day before, to where this little crankbait could cover a lot more water. It could only cover an area closer to the bank. So the main reason I want to talk about this, he was throwing, I don't know what he was throwing, a homemade spinnerbait from a buddy back home. He was throwing, like I said, a spinnerbait, chartreuse white, and then we went and fished some areas that he had found fish on a shad spawn. Meaning the shad were coming up to spawn, fish were eating them. But it was also like a spawning flat. It went way out there. It was only 5 feet or less coming all the way up to shore. So he told me, he said, I'm not going to be fishing everything. Like, I'm going to miss stuff. I'm only fishing high target areas, points, little ambush points for bass. And he was catching them. He was doing pretty good. So in my thought process, like, I need to get in the holes or little areas that he's going to purposely miss and see if he missed some fish. So what you can do with this chatterbait compared to this spinnerbait, as I'm showing them both here side by side for everybody listening, you can skip this. And I was going to talk about my trailer here in a little bit. But you can skip this and not really skip a spinnerbait. And there was some bushes around, some, what do they call them? There's some trees, willow bushes, and there was some, I can't remember the trees that cypress trees. And they have bigger root systems. And so you could skip it back in there a little farther, the chatterbait compared to the spinnerbait. So I was trying to get those extra bites, and I did. I did get some extra bites. I probably caught 4 or 5 fish again that day. But they were small, but this chatterbait actually got me more bites to it. The jackhammer skips pretty good. My buddy Kent Middlestead, you guys, if you haven't heard, or one of the episodes we did, one of the first episodes, he was a guest on the P.O.P. And last year when I fished him, he actually turned me on to, this is a Arsenal baits. They're actually made a little close by to me in Minnesota, and this is a tactical minnow. I can't remember how long this is, but it's a really cool bait. It's really, really soft, but it doesn't rip real easy. And so what this bait does is, Kent was using a lot when we were pre-fishing on, I think it was like Louisville or Neely Henry, and he was skipping docks like a maniac. So I call it the skipping minnow. even though it's not the proper name for it. That's what I call it, the skipping minnow. So the tactical minnow put on this chatterbait allowed an extra weight to it, extra little bulk to it, but it allowed me to get a real nice roll cast and go underneath and send that thing right back up underneath there. As soon as it went in, I started cranking it out, and I actually caught some buck bass, they call them, that were up really shallow in less than a foot of water, getting ready for some fish to bed. Now, if it would have been a little bit later, or the timing was different, who knows, maybe I was able to catch some bigger fish. I actually did get one fish. I actually skipped this. It was a little bit different bank. We weren't as shallow. I was able to skip the spinnerbait up next to a laydown, start cranking it out. The fish wasn't really shallow. It was actually deeper. Came up and took a bite of the chatterbait. And I didn't even get this one on film. I don't know what was up with my stupid camera, but I about slipped and fell in the water. I was standing on the back of the boat trying to work the fish around the motor and the power poles, and slipped on the back deck, got up and boat flipped it in. Fish was barely just touched 15 inches. And if it touches, you're good to go. So we put it in the box, rode around for a while. He ended up finishing his limit. I think he came in with 10 some pounds. And we measured mine at the just before weigh-in, and sure enough, it touched 15 inches. So I was able to walk across the stage for both days. Last year in the three Bassmaster Central Opens I did as a co-angler, did not catch a keeper fish, each of the 3 days of the tournament. So I only got to walk across the stage one time. So it was a tough season for me last year in that regard of not catching keepers on day 2. But we got keeper on day 2. It came in at 2 pounds even. So I finished with 7 some pounds, and that had me, I finished the tournament in 104th place out of 175 co-anglers. Not the finish that I wanted, but the one thing I'm really happy and I try to do as co-angler, one, you're trying to figure out bites, but 2, when you get your bites, no matter what size it is, that sucker is in the boat. If it's too short, it's too short. You cannot afford, unless your pro is absolutely on them, you cannot afford as a co-angler to set the hook, have a fish on, and not get it in, because then you're just not giving yourself a chance. And the way these fisheries fish, it always gets tougher closer to tournament time, and it always gets tougher on day 2 most of the time, especially for the co-anglers. So looking back, I was really happy. Actually learned a ton during practice. Like I mentioned, fishing a couple different techniques with those different guys, stuff that I've read about, stuff that I've watched on TV, I've heard pros talk about, but nothing to where like I have done it myself. And so I'm a very visual learner. I learn by doing things. That's just how it is. And so every time, well, for instance, when I learn something and I do it, I remember it, and then I can usually repeat it again. Taking what Alan had showed me on some of the pre-spawn, post-spawn stuff, I went to a random lake last weekend and with my wife's cousin Zane, and him and I sacked up some largemouth bass. And all I did, never been to this lake before, pulled up on my graph on my depth finder and on the map there, and just said, this looks good, this looks good, this looks good. And we just ran those spots, and we caught big fish. Used some of the techniques that Andy and Alan had showed me. I'd never had much confidence in them, but went back and caught fish. So if I do it, somebody shows me it, and I can do it and catch fish on it, I can usually repeat it. So that being said, I learned a lot from the practice, but I also learned a lot from the tournament, meaning, how do I say this? I was right. That's the only way I can say it bluntly. I was right from practicing and guessing what the water temperature was doing, moon phases, pressure, weather fronts, all that stuff. The tournament, inevitably, I think everybody that was in the top 10 on the pro side. A big shout out to Andy Rybar, the guy that let me practice with him on Sunday. He finished 4th out of 225 pros. And his other travel partner, Dennis, who let me fish with him quite a bit last year, Dennis Feidler, he finished 8th out of 225 pros. So those guys sacked him up. Big shout out to those guys. But my thoughts of what the fish were doing from a post-spawn, there's fish in all 3 stages. There's fish that were spawning some. There was fish that had spawned, meaning they're post-spawn. After the spawn, they were moving out. And there's fish that are pre-spawn, meaning they're getting ready to move up in the transition zones. And the ideas that I had, talking with some buddies, especially Kent. Kent isn't fishing the Centrals this year, but I was able to talk to him on the phone after practice was over, and just said, "Hey, this is what I think, man. Like this is." It was like after the tournament. I said, "This is what I think." Yeah, it was after the tournament. I said, "This is what I think. This is what's going on." And he goes, and then he had talked to some other guys that were there, and he said, "Dude, you were right. Like what I guessed was right." So it gave me more confidence in knowing that if I was on the pro side and fishing out of my own boat, that maybe I would have been able to make those adjustments. I'm not saying I would have won the freaking tournament or made a top 10 or anything like that, but it gave me confidence in knowing that what my gut feeling was, and looking at the situations that were put in front of me, that I could have maybe caught some fish. And then when it came to the tournament side of things, I was very happy with my execution. Setting the hook, fish came in the boat. I think I might have lost one fish, but it was a dinky one, so it wouldn't have even helped, or wouldn't have even been close. There had been a few fish last year that had lost on the day twos, and so I was really happy with my execution. And yeah, it's different. Like you're at the mercy, and this is the worst excuse a co-angler can give you. So I never use it as an excuse, but it's the truth. Is you are at the mercy of your pro and what he wants to do, if they're on fish or not. I'm not saying neither one of my guys were on fish. They definitely were, because they were catching them. But there was some pros that were offshore, and they had schools of fish, bigger groups of active fish, and some of those co-anglers were able to reap the rewards on that. But that's just how it goes. If I was to ever go into one of these tournaments and not try and learn something, I'd be just shooting myself in the foot, because then I'm just wasting my time. So I'm learning from practice, I'm learning from competition, and I'm learning from all these guys that I'm able to talk to, and run into some of the pros I fished with last year during the tournament, and able to talk to them and keep those connections going. So I think it was really, really sweet time. I'm not showing my crankbaits here again. I am not a little crankbait guy. Last year was one of the reasons fishing down south in this fall or whenever. These crankbaits get hooked in my finger. They catch fish. Like when I would normally look at these things fishing up here back home, like these are stupid. I wouldn't be able to cast them. I have to cast them on a spinning rod. I mean, I know guys throw shad wraps and whatever for walleyes. I just don't throw crankbaits much when I'm bass fishing. I haven't hardly caught a walleye on a crankbait either, besides maybe trolling them or something. But these little dudes can catch fish, and they can catch good fish. And so last year I bought quite a few of them, and now when I go down south, I'm usually having one of these little sized crankbaits tied on. Great search tools, and able to catch fish. Up here, I don't fish them as much because we have a lot more vegetation and weed cover, and it's harder to fish. You can. There's people that do, and there's techniques and ways to get around it. But what I've learned from last year is definitely transitioned to this year, so I have some of these baits tied on, and then just matching the hatch with this little black and white one compared to the shad. Another thing I was really happy with is that a gut feeling and something when I bought this spinnerbait on how I think this thing would be successful and dirtier water. Basically, the way I like by fish a spinnerbait, actually see these things, do some homework on them. When I see them in front of me, I actually bought a couple and caught fish on. And third thing for sure, using that Arsenal tactical minnow and being able to skip the chatterbait. That it didn't get me big ones and it didn't get me keepers, but it actually got me more bites than if I was just fishing the same stuff that my boater on day two was fishing. So you can see it here from showing to the camera. The head's all beat up, some paint chipped off of there from skipping it in there. I will say this, a chatterbait does not like wood, and we were fishing around the bushes and some laydowns. So unless you plan on losing some of these, I definitely would not recommend, for the most part, trying to skip a chatterbait or fish a chatterbait around wood. I would have been doing what my boater was doing and fishing a spinnerbait, but my hand was forced to try and skip into those places and get extra bites. So just saying, if you're listening to this or watching this and you plan on taking a chatterbait, or if you're planning on taking a chatterbait and fish around wood, just make sure that you know it's going to get hung up. It does not come across it as well. And luckily, I didn't lose any. Very, very surprising. I dulled a bunch of my hooks, so I got to go sharpen these things. I had 2 in this color and 2 in white, and so I dulled the hooks up a little bit, just getting them snagged up and my day 2 boater was really, really nice and was able to turn around and get me unstuck and stuff like this. Cause like I said, these are 15, 16 bucks a pop. So they're pretty expensive, but, yeah, really, really happy with my game plan and my execution. Now looking forward, what we're going to do, from a tournament standpoint and a social media standpoint, I want to touch on this quick. Don't want to take up much any more of your time. We're going to be fishing some local tournaments around here. I'm going to be entering, I think there's one I'm doing in the end of May here. I'm doing with Zane. He's going to come fish with me. We're doing a team tournament. And then I may be doing some team tournament style tournaments, but they'll be held in Minnesota, and you can call in Minnesota. So I might enter those tournaments just by myself and fish out of my own boat. I need to and want to get more experience making my own decisions and not bouncing ideas off of a partner. I've never fished a tournament by myself. I started bass fishing tournaments in 2016, and I've always just done team tournaments or done the co-angler thing where somebody else is making the decision. So I'm trying to work towards, the goal is to, who knows when it'll happen, to get the finances and the support maybe from some upcoming sponsors and stuff to make a run and try and fish the Bassmaster Opens on the pro side. So I'll be making the decisions. I'll be doing the fish and stuff like that. So in preparation to whenever that opportunity arises and I get to that level, I want to get more confidence fishing out of the front of the boat. Not just fun fishing, but I'll be making the decisions. I'll have the GoPro with me, so it'll be like you guys will be, there with me as I make decisions, good, bad, or ugly. Enjoy the highs and witness the lows, kind of thing. So I think that'll be good for my YouTube channel, and it'll be good, mostly important to me. So that way, like I said, when we get to the next level, I'll be more comfortable making those decisions. From a social media standpoint, I've been doing a little bit more live videos. I don't post as much on TikTok, but I've been doing a little bit more live videos and have got a lot of positive feed from people when we go live and they ask questions and stuff like that. So there's going to be opportunity coming. Like my Tuesdays and Thursdays are pretty busy for the social media upload stuff. Trying to get back to the normal groove of doing that. But there is going to be once, maybe twice a month on some night. Now that I'm going to be able to be at the lake a little bit more, fish a little bit more. We're going to go live on YouTube at some times, and they're not going to be seminars. I'm not going to be like, oh, this is how you do this, this, and this, which it could be if people wanted to see that. I'm very open to that. But what I'm going to do is hopefully be on the water, and I'm just going to go to a random lake, and I'm going to be fishing. And I say this is basically, hopefully it's a lake that I've never been to before. I can take you guys with me. We can get everything running. I've never done a YouTube live before, but I think it'd be fun for people to get on there, ask questions, and then I will be able to break down the water as I see it, and I'm trying to fish water temperature, time of year, cover that I'm fishing, stuff like that, and just kind of run you through all the thoughts that are in my head. Same thing with my YouTube videos. When it comes to summertime YouTube videos for fishing, my video views do not do very well. I think it's because a lot of people are doing the same style video that I am, basically catching fish, putting music to it, and going from there. So what I want to do this year, it's going to take a little bit more editing, a little bit more time on my side of things. What I am going to do is when I film a video, I am going to be doing either voice overlay or in the middle of the video interviews and explaining what, when, why, and how I am catching this fish. So that way when you partake in the video and you can watch it, you're going to be learning something. You also get some entertainment value out of it. I mean, because I feel like we're entertaining in our videos, having laughs, yelling at missed fish, just having a good time out there. But I feel like the viewers on my channel want to learn something, and I want to teach them something, at least give you my opinion on some things. Again, it's fishing. I could be definitely wrong on things, but the nice thing about fishing is the guy next to you can be doing something totally different that he loves compared to you, and he's catching more fish than you, catching less fish, whatever way. There's so many different ways to catch fish that I think it's another point of view that will make you a better fisherman, fisherwoman, whatever. So we're going to try and do that with more information and stuff in these videos. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit more work on my side, but I think it'll help the views and it'll help the viewers, most importantly, learn more. So that's where I'm at with that. If you guys got any questions, the easiest way to get a hold of me is to message me on Instagram. If you haven't already, follow the Preston Outdoors Facebook page and the Instagram page, and subscribe to the Preston Outdoors YouTube channel. Again, all those social medias are important to me, and help me in the long run with giving me your support and your follow. So again, I got people messaging me all across the country that I've never met before on Instagram. Why not be you? Ask me some questions, give me some ideas that you'd like to listen to a show, and we'll go from there. So I want to thank you guys for watching. Thanks for, like I said, watching or even listening. Don't forget to leave whatever major podcast platform you're listening to. Subscribe to the channel here, and don't forget to leave me a review on, I think it's review on iTunes. I don't think they do a review on Spotify, but a review wherever podcast platform you listen to. It'll help me out greatly. So once again, video coming later this week. Thanks for watching. You got any questions, let me know, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning into the P.O.P, aka Preston Outdoors Podcast.